Welcome to the You Are a Force podcast channel, your go-to space for real stories, fearless dreams, and unstoppable women rewriting the rules. And the force behind this podcast. Here is your host, Binoli Botadara.
Hi everyone, welcome to You're a Force, the podcast where we celebrate women who work in span of genres, mediums, formats, and whose actually voice teaches us to transform the silence into legacy. I have someone very, very special today. She's a journalist turned trendsetter turned mentor. She's a TEDx speaker, a founder of Story Company India, host of podcast Chasing Creativity. From penning her first novel, The Reluctant Detective, in 2011, to publishing 17 books across fiction, non-fiction, thriller, sci-fi, humor. I don't know how she does it, but it is my absolute pleasure to have someone so special who has actually moderated conversations, leading literally festivals across the globe and delivered workshops into the best schools in the world, which is IIT, IIMs, and NIMS. And she's also a mentor and writer and also a profound thinker. I'm Binoli Botadara, and it's my absolute pleasure to have none other than Kiran Manral. Kiran, thank you so much for being on You're a Force.
My pleasure, absolutely. Thank you for inviting me, Binoli. I'm sorry I gave you such a mouthful to rattle off. And I'm very impressed at how you managed to keep all that in mind. It's a little embarrassing.
But
If I may just, if I
it's
may just add,
exciting.
sorry.
No,
If
go
I may
ahead, go
just
ahead.
add, there's also another podcast called Not Your Auntie, which I co-host with Shunali Kullar Shroff.
Oh, sorry, I missed it.
No,
But
not at all.
but this is like reading someone's Wikipedia of like 100 years, but which you have managed to combine in like so. And I literally, when I was stalking you or doing research, I was like, oh my God, how does she do this? Like, there's so many hats you wear, and that's so impressive. And I just do like few things and I get exhausted. So you are a true inspiration and force in every sense of the word. But thank you, Kiran, for your time. I genuinely appreciate it. I want to go back to the beginning, and you have been described as a voracious reader as a child as well. So, what was your childhood like? Were books your escape or from the reality, or it was your companion? And predominantly, how's the world around you when you were growing up?
So were books an escape? Were they my companion? I think both. I think they were an escape. They were my companions. I was an only child. We shifted homes pretty frequently because my father had a transferable job. Being an introvert, I didn't really make friends too easily. So books were the easiest thing to, turn to. Plus, I think my father passed away when I was very young, and then I went into a bit of a shell. So books again came to my rescue back then.
Mm,
And I think books became my way to set myself apart from the world because it's so exciting. You're leading so many different lives. I mean, you could be anybody you choose at any point in time. And here I was, a young girl stuck in Mumbai. It wasn't the most exciting. Just go to school and come back, go to school and come back. So
mm.
books became a refuge of sorts, and also my window to the world.
Love that. Love that. Because it opens your horizon in so many other ways where you can't think. But from being a reader to a writer, that's a profound shift. And I want to ask something very simple but very deep, that why do you write? Because it's something, it requires very different skill set. And also, if you can take us back to your first book, The Reluctant Detective, and what was the trigger? Why did you end up getting into writing? And if you can maybe share some interesting stories.
Why do I write? That's a very, as you said, a simple but a very deep question. I think it's because it's an escape for me also to live out different lives and different characters as a person. I've always been writing, Binoli, from the time I was a child. I think my mother still has some very bad short stories that I've written, which she can probably blackmail me, by threatening to release them in public later. As well as terrible angst-ridden adolescent poetry, which I hope she has disposed of. I haven't checked. So all that is there. Uh, but then I became, of course, I went professionally into writing. I became an advertising copywriter. I became a journalist. I became a features writer. Then I was into content providing during the very first dot-com boom. Much before this, it was in the late 90s, early 2000s. I set up a company then and we were supplying content to all the new dot-com companies, that is Satyam, Tata Nova, and all those, that propped up out then, and all which shut down promptly when that boom was over. So I was doing that, and I went into research, and I was a qualitative research and a trend spotter. I worked with Gartner USA remotely, of course, for quite some time, being the India cultural lead and trend spotter. I think all of these sort of coagulated into life experience that involved research, that involved putting research down and sort of condensing it and then making narratives out of it.
Sure.
I was also with a senior consultant with a qualitative market research firm called Vector Insights, where we did very exciting work across brand categories across India, focus groups. And I think those focus groups sort of drew my attention to how much we don't really know about women and their desires and people and what motivates them. All that apart, why did I write my first book? So this is all the background, and there's too much of it to condense into a few statements. But when I was a child, I think I must have told my mother what some misconceived notion of grandeur or that I must have had, that I'll be an author one day when I'm going to write books as a child. But mothers being mothers, they hold on to it, So I went into Times of India. I was a journalist. I did various things. I set up my company. I got into advertising, research, forget. Nothing mattered. Every year she would ask me, when are you writing your book?
Really?
Really. So I would be like, now I'm very busy. I'm at the Times of India. I don't have time. I have a child now. I'm too busy raising the child. I don't have time. I have a business now. I don't have time. And finally, it was like, baby, you're going to be 40 this year. Where is your book? I better write this and get her off my back. I don't know, Binoli, if you have any, I don't know if you ever, were you raised there, the UK, or were you
No, I was raised in Ahmedabad, and
Okay.
yes, I grew up in Ahmedabad, and then I moved to Bombay to work for 10 years before I moved to London. I came here to study at London Business School, and I've finished my
Wonderful.
master's, and I've been working here ever since.
What a lovely story.
Yeah,
But just to, because I was just wondering if you remember the very old Doordarshan serial called Vikram and Vetal.
I've heard. I've not watched it, but I've heard.
So in that, Vetal is
The person on the
that's
back, right?
back, yeah. And he is constantly on the back of that king, and he says, like, you have to answer my riddle, or I'll, break your head into 1,000 pieces. And if you answer it right, I will go away and you to catch me again. So that was my mom. She was a Betal on my back. Write your book, write your book, write your book.
Bless her.
So I was like, let me write this book. It will get rejected. Then I'll tell her I have tried and nobody wanted it.
Yeah,
And I'll be
yeah.
done with it. But unfortunately, somebody, Dipti Talwar of West End loved it. And she asked to see the rest of the book, and I never stopped from there. So that was the story of the first book.
Amazing. I love that. And thanks to your mother, we got to actually get an author like you. So bless her and thank her on my behalf. But did you face any initial rejection or sexism for being a woman? Because we know the world out there, like J.K. Rowling very famously said that she had to drop her name from Jane to actually J.K. so that, and the sales shot up. So did you also face any sexism from publication houses or anything of that sort?
Not for my initial book, no. Luckily, my name is unisex, so I could have been Kiran Manral
Whatever.
gender agnostic. But my first book, which is actually a social satire, it's a comic mystery and a social satire, but it somehow got slotted into chicklet, and the cover is this stiletto, pink stiletto on a green
Really?
background.
Wow.
And while there is a bit of that, but it's definitely not chicklet and it's definitely not rom-com. But a woman writer and this affair which is a bit obsessed with her weight and her dressing. So let's make it, give it a typical
Yeah.
look.
Yeah.
So that was the first brush I had. And then I was, I think, too naive to sort of fight it out. And I was like, my book is coming out. It's okay. Put whatever you want. You put Shrek on the cover. I don't care. Just get the book out. But since then, I have definitely noticed the sexism in publishing. I have definitely, at the risk of upsetting the apple cart, I would say that male writers who are mediocre at best get
Mm.
much more attention and much more visibility than some of our very fabulous female writers. We have some wonderfully amazing female writers. I'm not going to take names of either. But
Sure.
I just think that I don't know why this happens, and I've had instances where I have had readers come up to me and say, "We don't read women writers. Or we don't write only romance, or you write only emotional stuff."
Shut up.
Like your loss, man. And the other bias that I find, which is not towards male writers or female writers, it is towards fiction versus non-fiction. In
Mm.
India, at least, when because we are such a country that is so academically driven and so into competitive exams and doing well and only
Yeah.
reading to gain knowledge, it is non-fiction. It
Right.
is gyan all the way. There is
Yeah.
no concept of reading for pleasure.
Mm.
That whole idea to read, to inhabit other worlds of people, to see things, in a different way, that has gone off. Yeah, there is definitely a bias. Women writers, though we've had Booker winners who are women writers,
Mm.
we
Mm.
don't have to prove that women writers are any less or any uh, uh, less talented or less worth
Mm.
of attention from the readers and the publishers than male writers. But somehow, I do feel there's an insidious bias. It may not be explicitly mentioned or it may not come out explicitly, but there is this thing that women are writing for pleasure and men are writing serious literature. Bullshit. I mean, there's
Which
chicklet
is
and there's dicklet. So let's.
that's so funny because majority of the books in the ancient times were though written by men, but they were about women. So they say that, oh, women don't know how to write. I mean, you observe them and create your art. And you were saying that women, like I go to galleries here in the UK, and every painting or every art you see is of a woman. But those days men were only allowed to create things. But and then you say that women don't know. I mean, how could you? And sometimes I really wonder that the narrative has been created also by men so that they do not want that share to be given to women as well. And so it very conveniently works for everybody. I'm not sure even if there's a fine book on the table, people don't really bother, but it's just that like the narrative which has been passed down to generations. Like it's funny, I was in LBS while I was studying. Indra Nooyi was actually doing a roadshow for her memoir. So she had come to the school and the hall was full. I think we had around 300, 400 students. Out of 400 students, Kiran, there were only 35 to 40 people who were men. The rest were all women. And I actually took the picture and sent it to my professor whose class I was attending in diversity. And I was like, if Tim Cook were to be in the room, do you think that the dynamics of the room would look the same? And she actually picked that screenshot, and we had a conversation in the class. And she's like, at least you observed, that's a good start. Most people just think it's a status quo. But I was like, no, it was so obvious. How can you miss it? And then it's important for you to give the narrative that, women leaders can also inspire men. Because when I look at Tim Cook, or anyone for that matter, I don't look at him as a man. I look at him as an achiever, right? Or a leader. So it was very interesting. And when you're saying this, I have never actually gone and looked at a name of an author and thought that it's a different gender, if you know what I mean. So it's
But
really interesting, and I hope this changes, and then women would get their dues even in terms of the pays as well. So no, it's super interesting. But Kiran, I want to know about your superpower, which to me is moving from one genre to another very seamlessly. 17 books later, romance, thriller, sci-fi, non-fiction, everything. So how does shifting genres change the way you think, the way you research, or the way you write? And when you work with your books, or when you start writing, do you still recognize, or do you have any fingerprints of the authors who actually shaped the way you imagine things?
it's a very interesting question about the authors who shaped my voice. I think I'll take that first. I think when I wrote my first book, I was very heavily influenced by P.G. Wodehouse. So a lot of my writing is rather long-winded, humorous, funny. So the initial books were in that style, and eventually I did find my own voice. But I think every author goes through that phase where you do draw on other authors who have inspired you and
Sure.
who have, left their mark on you. So for me, that was definitely P.G. Wodehouse, and it took me a lot to shake that off. And then, of course, I got inspired by other authors when I began writing my darker books. So it was always Stephen King or, uh, Murakami, or, when I went towards the surreal part of writing, when I was writing those kind of books. But I think that's so wonderful that we have such a plethora of influences that we can draw upon, as long as we're not imitative, as long as we, take them as inspiration, and build our work from them. I think that's a wonderful thing to happen to any writer, and to have
Yeah.
that kind of a background where you know that you have been fed, your brain has been fed by so much, and greatness just humbles you as a writer, and whatever you produce just seems inadequate at the end of the day. So, but I don't know a lot of writers, most of them male, I hate to say it, who say we don't read because we don't want to be influenced.
Are you
But that is the
serious?
Yes, yes. This is real life quotes. You can, these are actual things I've heard. And some of them are best-selling authors. They don't want to be influenced. They don't want the writing to be influenced. And I'm like, it's not about the writing, it's about the craft. Unless you read, how do you know the craft? How do you know structure? You are just, at the end of the day, you may be a best-selling author and sell in lakhs or whatever, or thousands, lakhs, whatever. I don't know what the figures are for them. But if your narrative is she came into the room, she said this, and she went out, and then he came in, he said this, you are just narrating a story. And where is the craft? And the craft is not there because you have not read. And it shows. And then it becomes this dumbing down of writing, which then passes on to the reader, who then expects this kind of dumbed down writing. And when they get my book, for instance, or somebody else's book, which is trying to show off vocabulary, comes in an Amazon review. I'm not trying to show off.
Are you
The, voc-
serious?
the vocabulary has been hard built by so many years of reading intensely.
No,
So,
are you serious? They say that.
um,
And as a criticizing, like as
yeah,
criticizing, like
yeah.
not as a compliment that, oh my God.
No, not as a compliment at all. And yes, I'm sorry that, you have to improve your vocabulary in order to read me. And maybe I shouldn't make it so tough for you guys.
I should charge extra because
Yeah,
I'm doing two things in one go.
maybe I should include a thesaurus with my book next time or something. So
Fun.
this is the kind of stuff. And as to writing, your first question was about writing across genres. It's 18 books now. I just released The Game Changers, which is about 14 women entrepreneurs
Okay.
in India across various sectors. And I think it's my journalistic training, Binoli. So I covered business, I covered art, I covered fashion, I covered entertainment, cinema, women's issues, gender issues, crime, city, civic issues. So I covered everything in my span between Times of India, Asian Age, the Lal Street Journal, the India Today group, Cosmopolitan. So in all these stints, I've covered a gamut of everything. So I have learned to write across different things, and I
Are you a
read also.
Gemini?
No, I'm a Cancerian.
Okay, okay. Because I'm a Gemini and Gemini, sorry I interrupted, but I was just
Not at all.
curious because Geminis have this spectrum of interest from one place to another. So, like literally as stark as black and white. So I thought maybe you're a Gemini.
But you're pretty close, Binoli, because my Mercury is in Gemini.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so maybe because of that.
Yeah,
Yes.
and Mercury is the planet of communication.
It is,
So
yes.
probably it has had an influence. Yeah, so I think it's my reading across various genres. I've never read specific to one genre. There are some I can't absolutely read, like mythology, for instance, or certain kinds of thrillers which I don't like. But I read very agnostically across all kinds of genres. So I think that sort of reflects in the writing.
No,
I read
fair.
fiction, non-fiction, I read thrillers, I read science fiction, I read fantasy, I read humor,
Love
drama,
that.
anything. Yeah.
No, I totally understand because I, as a person, I'm extremely versatile, being maybe a Gemini, I don't know. I've worked in finance all my life, into investments, asset management, studied that, finished my MBA, worked into a completely non-glamorous side, but I'm quite interested into politics. So my dad and I would, dissect everything, the economy and this and that. And with my mom, I would talk about culture and theater and art and reading. And I love fashion, so I would design my outfits and I would do it for my friends. And by default, when you like fashion, you start observing a lot of art and everything around that. And also funny enough that I was zero into sports, but Sachin made me follow cricket because I was a diehard Sachin fan. But I was so much into dancing and music and singing and all of that. And by default, you like music because of the same thing. So I can have a conversation and debate on any of the topic, and people just like, how do you do that? Like, how? I said, how are you one dimensional? How do you not know? And when I would go out on dates and men just know only about their work, they do not have an opinion on anything, and it's such a put off. And like, okay, oh, I cannot even have a conversation. Can I give you like a funniest thing? I went on a matrimonial, arranged marriage date, and I was asking that person, so what do you like to do in your free times? So just to sound intellectual, he said, oh, I love reading. And I was like, oh, wow, what do you read? And he said, newspaper. And I'm not kidding. And he had
Okay.
newspaper.
That's a lot more reading than a lot of men do these days. So, I'll take that.
I was like, I came out, I told my parents this is what he said, and they both were laughing, and they were like, okay, we know your answer, we don't even need to. But
Having heard your story, it's very interesting because when I started dating my husband, he was a complete non-reader.
okay.
When I went to his home for the first time, I didn't see a single book anywhere, not a bookshelf, and I was, oh man. But love or lust at that point was greater than everything, and I ended up marrying him. But today he's the bigger reader. He's a greater reader than I am. So there's
Yeah.
hope yet.
I think if you have a growth mindset, that really helps with everything. You don't need to be Einstein from the day one, but you can actually, if you have a mindset, you can open any chapter, any horizon at any point in time. So that's very important. But Kiran, I want to pick up on something which is very backbone of the whole business of books, which is nearly 90% of the books sell fewer than 2,000 copies. And so when you actually advise or, mentor emerging writers, how does the entire economics of publishing work? Because when should you chase the marketable genres like, I don't know, crime or rom-com because you're more attracted, but if your natural flair is towards a certain genre, then you should double down on your strengths, or how does that entire thing work when you actually go and advise someone?
So the first thing to be taken into consideration is, why are you writing? Are you writing for the money and the fame? Are you writing? But there's no money in it. Let me put that out straight at the beginning. There's money in it only if you become super bestseller in an Indian context, like a Chetan Bhagat or an Ashwin Sanghi or an Amish Tripathi. And that's like a minuscule percentage of everyone who
Yeah,
writes.
yeah,
And of course, they write in certain genres, which Chetan writes emotional dramas, Ashwin writes fiction which blends it with historical mythology with modern context. Amish is purely mythological fantasy. So they've got their specific genres. If you are writing for the market, which is a wonderful thing, and to sell and to make money and to establish yourself as a literary voice, then definitely you need to look at sellable uh, genres, what the market is reading right now. But unfortunately, what happens is trends come and go. So what the market is reading right now is not what the market will be reading 2 years down the line when your book is ready. So I would always advise people to see what they feel most aligned with, and then see what is in that space right now and what is doing well, and write accordingly. You don't have to tailor your story. You don't, if you are a mythology person and if thrillers are doing well right now, don't write thrillers because you'll make a mess of it. It's not your forte. It's not your space. Stick to what your space is. And I don't say stick to your lane. Far be it for me to say stick to your lane. I have never stuck to any lane. I've just gone woven in and out of every lane possible throughout my career. But stick to what you enjoy doing and what you like, and see what the market is consuming in that space and try to work accordingly. And that's the only shot. There's no telling what will work and what will not work. I've seen some terrible books sell in thousands and thousands, and some brilliant books just sink like stones. So there's no telling what the market will read and what will get picked up. If you are writing for the pleasure and the joy and for the craft and for the skill, please keep your day job.
And then do this as a passion.
Do this in the night, in the early mornings.
Yeah.
You need to pay bills, you need to pay the rent, you need all that. Nothing is going to come from writing. I have the luxury of not relying for so many years on a steady income, because luck. Thankfully, and I acknowledge the privilege that my husband is there to take care of the expenses, the major expenses. I would never be able to write so much if I had to earn an income and run a house. So that is something that people should keep in mind when they decide to take up writing. Are you going to do this full time? Are you doing this for pleasure? Are you doing this for the money? Are you doing this for the royalty checks? So once you have that clearly sorted in your head, then you can decide what you're going to write and what you're going to focus on. So once, but at the end of the day, whatever you decide to do, whatever you decide to write, it has to be something that you enjoy doing. Don't force fit yourself into something that you don't, because it shows in the writing.
Don't
And
try and fit
yeah,
into something which
yeah.
you're not. Yeah.
So
No,
that's about it. Yeah.
yeah,
Just
fair.
keep your day
No.
job. Make sure you have alternate sources of income. Or you have like Harper Lee did. You have friends who will finance you for a year while you write your book, and then you go and write to Kill the Mockingbird. Do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, fair. It's a very practical but very genuine advice, because I mean it's not that hunky dory out there. But Kiran, the publishing of the books is actually having a very limited shelf life, maybe like a carton of milk, because 30 to 40% of the printed books never find permanent home. So what happens to those books, or what happens to those publishers or authors, and then ultimately how do you get back to writing and get back to finding that publishing house to actually print your story again? If I'm one of those 30-40%.
Never find a home in the sense that they don't get accepted by publishing
Yeah.
houses.
Or my book is at the crossword, but nobody's reading it. And then ultimately, when the new books come in, they
It
have to
gets
get,
pulped.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So what happens to those printed books?
they get pulped.
Okay. And
It's very cruel.
do
Yeah.
I know that if my books are being pulped?
Yeah, you're informed by the publishers that we have so much of stock. So would you like to buy back copies? We can give it to you at a discount. If not, we will have to pulp them. So you decide what you do. And there's no need to be sentimental about it. Some books work, some books don't work. Just move on to the next book. You are not, if you're here for the commerce, you'll feel bad for it. But if you're here for the story, tough luck world. I gave you a fabulous story. You didn't want to read it, your loss.
Your loss, yeah, yeah.
So I have had a book which got pulped. It was Once Upon a Crush. Lovely book, a fun book. But maybe it wasn't destined to reach many readers. It's fine. You just move on and keep writing.
Yeah, no, fair. It's like, when we go to the shop, we don't like everything what they have. It doesn't mean the designer has not put an effort to make something beautiful, right? So it's a personal choice. And I think in the times like now, when everything is digitalized, I think that also sort of helps if you print limited numbers and then have it on Kindle or something which is an Audible or something like that. So I think that also sort of helps. So, but I want to understand something called the bestseller paradox. Everywhere you go, every book you open, every writer's LinkedIn page shows that number one bestseller. So I don't know what that really means, and I really want to pick your brain that because the industry stats show that only 1% of the books in India sell over 10,000 copies, which are the bestsellers. So can you tell us like what is a true bestseller? Is it number? Is it shelf life? It is cultural resonance. How do you define? And there are so many people who are giving this one number one bestseller title. So who is the genuine, authentic name we should actually look for?
The one who has crossed 10,000 copies in sales.
Okay.
That's the only benchmark for that particular book. So not all your books will make it. Some authors are lucky enough to have all their books make it, which is wonderful. But sometimes you have some duds and you have some who make it.
Yeah.
So that's fine. For me, the bestseller tag doesn't mean anything. Because as I mentioned before, I've seen some horrible books become bestsellers. I mean, there are books like you don't even cast them aside, you fling them aside because they're so bad. And I'm not saying it from a judgmental perspective. I read indiscriminately. I read across, but when it's just like ta, she came, he went, she sat down, he said this, he said that, like those books have become bestsellers, and I'm like, fuck, sorry,
No,
but
don't be.
so yeah, those numbers are important. The sales figures are important. All that matters when you're going to get your next book. Your next book contract. To me, the only thing that matters is if a book is relevant 5 or 10 years down the line. Even today, I get people saying, oh God, the face at the window still haunts me. Or I get somebody saying that, did you have somebody in your family with mental illness for missing, presumed dead? How did you write that character? Or when somebody tells me, I read your book, I read all aboard, and then it became my goal to go on a Mediterranean cruise. So your book stays with somebody for so many years, and these are not friends or these are not acquaintances. These are random people you would meet somewhere who may have on the off chance read your book or no.
Yeah.
So that for me is the true hallmark of a good book. When somebody 10 years down the line remembers your book, still talks to you about it, can remember the characters. I mean, think of it, the classics that we keep rereading now, they were never the bestsellers of their times.
I agree.
mean, The Great Gatsby did horribly when it was released, and then it went on to become a bestseller because of various factors. But some books did horribly, and then they went on to do very well afterwards. So I think the longevity of a book is more important. Does
Okay.
it stay in public consciousness? Has it the potential to alter somebody's thinking or to give somebody joy or pleasure or catharsis while
Mm-hmm.
reading it?
Mm-hmm.
I think that is a true measure of a good book. Bestseller is just that, it's a metric.
Mm.
It is bestseller. That's it. Is it best book? We
No.
never know. We have prizes for that. We have various literary prizes to determine that, but those are also disputable. I mean, it's
Yeah.
always it's not objective, is it? It would be
No.
the jury's preference and predilection, which is wonderful because at the end of the day, that's a tough task they've been given to sort out through so many different offerings and to decide what works best for them.
Mm-hmm.
So
No.
sometimes some books which have won awards also may not touch you, and some which haven't even made the shortlist may touch you. So it's,
Yeah.
I think,
Just like
as a reader,
movies.
yeah, you just
Yeah.
have to find your own
Yeah.
what speaks to you
Yeah,
as a
no,
reader.
true. I think speaking of that, when I recommend movies, my parents don't go and watch it because I put them into cinemas for movies, and like I loved Water as a movie, and then I sent it to them, and they came back, and my dad was like, "Why did you do this? This is such a brilliant movie. How did you not like it? And then how do you end up liking movies like Animal and those weird ones? And when I watched Animal, I'm not even kidding, for 4 nights I did not sleep because it was a blockbuster in India, because that really talks how sick people's mindsets are in terms of, celebrating the abuse of marriage and celebrating women getting suppressed. And I literally, my friend is like, please do not do this to yourself, and just go do something else so that it's out of your window. And after that, I categorically decided that there are some movies I'm not going to watch. How my parents do not go and watch my recommendations, no matter how blockbuster it is, I'm not going to watch, because it really bothers me so much at like deeper level. And that's what the books also do that to you, right? I mean, it stays with you because even that character is closer to you than what you see on the screen. So I think you're right. It whatever works for you would become the bestseller, and ultimately that should be the identity of the book, not any other title. But Kiran, I want to pick up on feminism because you and I both are advocates of that. So I want to personally ask that what does feminism mean to you as a word? Because it's quite abused and overrated and overspoken. But I want to pick your brain what you think of it. And when you write your characters and when you do the research on your books, how do you define feminism? Do you define feminism of the present moment, or when you're writing a character, creating a character, is it about the future of feminism? Because feminism is also constantly changing.
So I think we had more feminism in the distant past than we had in the past leading up to our current situation. So if you look at the women from ancient India, they had the Swayamvar.
Mm,
They could choose their own partners. They had the right to choose, and nobody could take objection.
mm,
Of course, there were some hot-headed types who might, get brawly and whatever in the Swayamvar hall. But her decision was paramount. If she went, and whoever she put the garland on was her partner.
mm,
Women had the right, if you read certain manuscripts, they had the right to education. They were very educated women. They were sages. There's some women had written uh, some of the very the manuscripts of ancient times. So they had education, they had property, they had a say in court affairs. If you see some of the Mughal kings, they were very influenced by their wives and their judgments, their opinions on things. Even so, I think feminism has got a bad rep now
mm,
because many people seem to confuse it or conflate it with the bra-burning militant feminism
mm,
and the very aggressive feminism and the feminism of, men and women being equal, but men and women don't need to be equal, because we aren't equal. We are
Yeah,
physically
different.
very different, as within the species itself. Uh, there is different physical capabilities, needs, reactions, hormonal issues, everything is different. But what I think for me, feminism is just complete respect.
Mm.
From the male to the female, from the female to the male. If you consider me worthy of respect and not an object of your gaze, which is, something that really bothers me. I think when men look on women as people and not just sexual objects, and women demand to be looked at as people and to be acknowledged as complete individuals, I think that is what we need to aim for. All this equality and going Dutch and whatever, what is chivalry, opening the door, all that. These are all they little quibbles in the greater scheme of things. At the end of the day, we need to know, do we have the right to our own decisions? Do we have the right to our own body? Do we have the right and the agency to our own reproductive rights? Look at what is happening in the world, in the USA today, for instance. Do we have the right to education? Do we have the right to property? Do we have the right to vote? Do we have the right to an independent income? Credit cards came in only in the 1960s. Women were allowed credit cards. These are hard-fought gains. When I hear young women today say, I am not a feminist, do you not like about being a feminist? Do you not want to be educated? Do you want to be the property of your father and then your husband? Do you not want that credit card which you're flashing about? What do you not want about feminism? Do you not want the right to vote? Do you not want the right to own property? So people do not understand. I think this generation has forgotten what the hard-won victories of feminism are.
Yeah, how they're
It is
standing on the shoulders of so many
Yeah,
women
many
who
women.
fought for
So many
them.
waves of women, three waves of
Yeah.
feminism, fourth wave of feminism going on. And now, of course, the people with, we can't just say men and women anymore. We have the
Yeah,
other genders to think
correct.
about.
Yeah.
So I think it's just inclusiveness, just considering everybody with respect and
Mm.
knowing that everybody is different but same. That's all it is. I
Mm.
don't know if I made sense, but
No,
that is
it
my core
does.
belief.
No, it definitely does. It's as simple as just acceptance. Accepting the other person as important and as good as you are. I mean, that's it. As simple as that. Do not put them into the boxes which works for you, and that's it. I grew up in a household where I've seen my mom working always, so I didn't know any other way. I tell my dad that, I have never seen my father telling my mother that make this for me, cook this for me. My mother didn't know how to cook. I don't know how to cook. I've never been told by my parents that, you have to learn this. So when you get married, nothing, no conversations of those sorts happened in my household. I was raised as a daughter, but my parents gave me everything what my brother would get. So when you step out in the world and when you work in financial services, where you are the only one person in the room of 100 men, and then there is a different gaze that, oh, how do you have a seat on the table? Because you're pretty, or because you must have slept with your boss, or the client is a womanizer, that's why you got the check. And I literally dealt with these comments every single day. And when I came to London, and in London Business School, in one of the one of the tests which we had to do in our personality or something, this is what it came out. And my professor was like, it must be exhausting. I said, yeah, because I used to live two different lives. Because in my home, I grew up in a very different environment and setup. So I never had to be someone else. But at work, I had to be someone else completely. And it was exhausting. And when I come to London, I can hug a man and he would not think I want to sleep with him. I can say what I want and people will not that or think that, oh, I am a feminist or a troublemaker. or I'm a tough nut to crack. They don't see me like that. They might not have the same opinion, which is fine. We can agree to disagree. So it's such a refreshing change. And now when I look back, I'm like, why was I suffering so much? And it bothered me to a level that it actually impacted my performance
Oh.
because I used to actually mellow down. I started wearing a lot of blacks and grays and blues so that I would blend in. But how can I blend in? I would look different. I would sound different. I think differently. So it was such a nightmare. But sorry, I just went off track
No.
about the feminism. But yeah, and I used to debate with a lot of people that what feminism is. I said, whatever would be your definition, but you should be feminist, and that used to be my answer. But uh,
Lovely.
but I want to pick up on the podcast which you do, which is Chasing Creativity, and you've crossed 60 episodes and featuring writers, filmmakers, artists, thinkers across the genres across the globe. So after this deep conversation, what is that one thread of grit you found amongst these creative people who actually um, have that particular thread which make them creative and someone who is so successful and so impactful?
I think, as with everybody who creates, whether in a creative space or whether building a business or whether doing something, setting up something, it is the willingness to take a risk.
Mm,
So with creativity, it is the willingness to go beyond what is expected of you, to do something, to stake it all in the creative space, to, give up the comforts of a steady job or a fixed career or, do an MBA, to play the safe, secure route.
yeah.
And, there is financial security in this, and the creative space is not financially secure. So it's always a great leap of faith for whoever's in the creative space and also in their work. If they're going to be doing what has been done before and playing safe,
Mm,
they're not going to be creating anything new. So if they are willing to take that leap, and I think that is where genius comes in. There's talent, there's skill. So talent and skill is a given,
mm,
but to hone it and to go beyond both of those and to do it with such grace, I think that's where genius comes in, and that's what sets apart the high achievers from the others. So you build on what you already have, you build on your talent, you build on your craft, you build on everything, but you have that little something that takes you apart from the rest.
mm,
And you know it. You know it when you see somebody who is prolific or somebody who's talented, and you know it. You know that it's not just, okay, there are people who may have that little bit of talent and they've really worked hard on their craft and they've done it, but they will only reach a certain space of, adequacy
mm,
in whatever they're putting out. It
mm,
won't cross over into that, oh, wow, what was that? So
mm.
for that, I think genius and genius with courage
Love
is
that.
what, yeah.
Love that. And in your TED Talk, you talk about necessity of risk, which was very interesting. So, what is the most riskiest, or not most riskiest, but what, according to your journey in your professional or personal life, what's the riskiest decision you ever made? Perhaps it looked like reckless or disastrous at that time, but in the hindsight, you glad you took that.
Also risky. So, yeah. In hindsight, I was at the Times of India. I was writing my bylines with the paper. Almost all of India was reading my name.
Hmm.
Whenever I went, people knew if I said Kiran Manral, you had that thing behind you that you're Kiran Manral from the Times of India, and the Sunday Review went out across all
Hmm.
editions. Then I decided to leave.
Hmm.
And at that point, I did not know why I was doing it. I was just very restless and unfulfilled and whatever. And I just felt like I'm doing the same thing over and over again. There's so much of bureaucracy. In the Times of India, it's like a government organization, and I was feeling stifled out there. But in hindsight, I think that was the best decision I took.
Hmm.
And I didn't have another job in hand, I think, at that point when I jumped. But then I went into Trikaya Gray, which is advertising. From there, a great PR, and then we set up our own, my husband and I set up our own advertising agency. So it's been a series of risks that we've taken, but leaving the Times of India, which is like a comfortable set job, I could have retired from there, you know. But
Yeah,
then I would be Kiran Manral of the Times of India. I would never be Kiran Manral. So
who we
in
are,
hindsight, I think
who we are
that was the
simply.
best decision that I took.
I love that, and I'm glad you took that, and you also become someone who you do not know, unless you do not take risks. And what's the worst that could happen? You can always go back to Times of India, right? So, but if you would not step out of Times of India, how would you know what's out there? As an example, I'm just saying I have done everything what was not defined in my scheme of things. I come from a Gujarati business family where in around me women don't study much. If they study to get married. By 23, 25 you get to be married and then have children, and that's defined, and I didn't do any of that. I finished my MBA, started working for financial service, I mean with Prudential of the UK that time, and my dad has a business, and like everyone's like, well, why do you do a job? Like, you don't need money. And then I decided to move to Bombay for a better career prospect. And again, the whole society, including my father, didn't support me. Like, why do you need to move to Bombay? Why do you need a job? I will give you money, and why can't you do it in Ahmedabad? But I'm like, but I've reached at an optimum level. Only my mother supported me, and I lived in 10 years, Bombay. I mean, I lived in Bombay for 10 years, but first 5 years were horrible. Absolutely not a single person. Everyone thought that I have an affair in Bombay or some sort of crap, which I stopped even justifying. And when I decided to pull the plug and start, I mean, I wanted to study, everyone's like, well, why do you need to study now? I mean, you've already done an MBA. So, and then you come into London and everyone's like, but why do you want to live in London? Why do you want to do the chores and you don't know how to cook? I mean, these are the problems people had. And I sometimes wonder that, how limited your mindset is if you do not take the risk and try on the other side. How do you know that? But it's funny that people judge you when they haven't stepped out of their comfort zone, and they sit there and judge you and then they pull you down constantly. But I'm glad
Yeah,
that
but that's okay. That's their task to do, and it's our task to just keep doing what we want to do. So
true,
that's fine.
true.
Let them say.
You just need like one support system or one person who actually stands by you. And I was very fortunate to have a mom like that. But otherwise, I don't think. A poor thing, she had to go through so much because of me. But she always told me that you do what you got to do, what's right for you, what you think would make you happy, and do it. And I'll stand by you. So I think I would not have done without my mother for sure.
Lovely. Lovely. So nice to hear that.
Yeah, and but women strategically read 80% of the fictions, right? We just established that, and men read most of the non-fictions. So when you write, do you, or when you mentor again the writers, when you do you tell them to write like a man if they're writing non-fiction, or the other way, to actually change the female gaze? Is that anything you consciously think or tell people that it cannot be like male dominated or so on, or it just doesn't come to women naturally?
I write nonfiction. So it's not that, I would tell anybody to write like a man, because there's the only terrible thing that men write, some men prescribe women terribly. And the gaze, the male gaze that you're talking about, I mean, it just comes true. I mean, they obviously never had uh, detailed knowledge of the female life and anatomy and all when they write some things. I mean, anyway, but there have been men who have written wonderful books with from the female. I mean, if I can think of Madame Bovary, I can think of Anna Karenina, beautifully as female protagonists. Like they sat in the mind of a woman and written those books, and they were male writers. So it has been done. Men have written women wonderfully. And yes, contemporary writers also, some men do write women beautifully. Having said that, when I'm mentoring young debut writers, there's never this thing about write like a man, write like a woman. It is just write your truest voice. Write what you think and what you feel, and make sure that you are not writing in a certain way because you think you are supposed to write in a certain way. If certain sentence structures don't come to you naturally, but your favorite author writes like that, long-winded sentences or very eloquent sentences, if it's not the way you're thinking, you can't, force yourself to write like that. Just write the way the sentences come to you. And then there's always rewrites and there's always edits, but you put down the most honest voice that you have is all I tell them. And as for nonfiction, it completely depends on the kind of nonfiction. So, a nonfiction, which is a self-help, will be very different from a business book. So the voice will be different, the tonality will be different, even the sentence structures will be different.
Sure.
So it completely depends on the kind of book.
Just
At the
be
end of the
yourself.
day, it just write what comes naturally to you, be comfortable with it, with whatever it is that you're writing. Don't force fit yourself. I say this over and over. Don't force fit yourself into something you're not comfortable with. And it always helps if you read in that genre
Fair
before you start writing.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, if you're a cricketer, you watch cricket. As simple as that.
To study others before you start your own.
100%. And I want to pick up on the most talked word these days, which is AI, artificial intelligence. And because in the heartbeat, AI can actually write flawless 50,000 words, and the attention spans are shrinking. So in this situation, when the machine actually can imitate your voice style, emotions very easily, how or where does the true authorship lie, and how do you remain unshakably human when you write a story?
By being unpredictable. The
Interesting.
machine can't be unpredictable. The machine can only draw from what has been done before and repurpose it. I think our humanity, our humanness, the humanity, lies in the fact that humans are very unpredictable. And when we create, we must retain that quirk of being unpredictable to ensure that, we can't be topped by an AI. So if we are going to write whatever we sorry. So if you're going to be writing something depending on what has been written before, we will sound like AI. But if we write something that has not been done before, something that we've drawn on our own life experiences or our own thoughts, or something that is very individual to us, AI can't take that from us, right? Use AI as a tool, I say. Use AI to... I don't understand this fear of AI. It's here. It's right here in our faces. It's like, use it like a genie. Get it to get stuff for you and fetch stuff and do the drag of the research and let it do the drag work for you. But don't depend on it so completely that you're using it to write, to get your chapters and your synopsis and your plot and all that. You're just getting what has already been done before. Use AI to help you as an assistant, as a virtual assistant. Tell it to fetch all the references that you want for a certain period in time. Tell it to, what are the common names in that place, in that part of the world at that era. So that too, Google, if you go to Google, you'll have to go to thousands of websites to get your references. AI will do it, go through everything and get it. Use it. Don't be afraid of it, but don't be lazy with it around. Then you have no right to say that AI is taking over your work if you're being lazy and expecting it to do everything for you.
Yeah, love that. And Kiran, then what's next for you? 18 books later, are you having any, books being featured as films, or what is next? Since you do so many different things, there, what is that completely unexpected thing you're gonna jump into?
Completely. I think the completely unexpected thing I jumped into was becoming an entrepreneur at the end of this year and setting up the
Really?
story company India.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a collective of resources for writing, for publishing, for creativity. We mentor, we do editing, we do memoir writing, ghostwriting, we do workshops, we do everything in brand writing, everything in the space of writing and creativity. So I think that was a new for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also, in a sense, born from the fact that, writers really get the short end of the stick when it comes to making money. So it was like, okay, let's do something where, folks can also get an income, also do their writing, also,
Yeah. Yeah.
have a good time.
More power to
So
you. More power
thank
to you.
you.
And I hope,
Thanks.
it grows beyond even your dreams. And let's manifest that. And but before I let you go, I want to ask that what is the one piece of advice if you were to give it to all the listeners who are listening today, man or a woman, doesn't matter, but what is the one piece of advice you would give it to them?
Uh, about life in general, or
Anything about writing, about life in general. I actually wanted to ask you for writers, but I'm like, no, that's not doing right justice because she has such brilliant mind. I do not want only for the writers. I want for everyone. But whatever the advice you want to give.
oh, one piece of advice I would give is find your passion, find what truly passion and your purpose, and then move heaven and earth to do it.
Mm,
But make sure you are trained for it. Make sure you get your skills in place. Make sure you are damn good at it. There's no point in being passionate in something you're mediocre in.
mm,
Be very objective about your ability in a certain space and then go all out. If you're good at something, just go all out for it.
mm,
Uh, don't think about success, don't think about money, don't think about all those things. Your laser focus should be on doing something which has not been done before and being so good at it that you can't be replaced. With AI, everybody is replaceable, right?
100%. Yeah.
So what are you going to do by being one more cog in the wheel in a mediocre space?
Mm,
Being mediocre in a space which is already filled with AI and people are getting shunted out of jobs. So just narrow your niche down, be brilliant at what you do, and be irreplaceable.
mm. Oh,
That's
yes. On that note, Kiran, before I let you go, I'm just gonna squeeze some rapid fire questions. Whatever comes to your mind, just bring it on. Two non-fictional most favorite books of all time.
two. One is what I talk about when I talk about running by Haruki Murakami. The second is oh God, When Breath Becomes Air.
Oh, I love that book.
Yeah, it's a book that really touched me, and I think I need to reread it again now, uh, since I mentioned it. But these two books have really touched me.
Two of your most fiction books. I usually ask one, but I think I won't do a justice to you if I just ask one.
Can I, twist that a bit and say two of my favorite authors?
Yes, you can.
So,
Because that was
so
my
my
next question, but you can.
okay. So I guess if you say two of my favorite books, it will be so difficult because I'll say everything by P.G. Woodhouse, everything by Terry Pratchett, everything by Isaac Asimov. So so it's these authors and and Haruki Murakami, Kafka on the Shore, Norwegian Wood, P.G. Woodhouse's Lord Emsworth, the series. So I think these are my favorites. Never Let Me Go by Ishiguro. These are the books I keep coming back to.
Okay. One word you overuse when you write and you unapologetically love.
When I write, it is perhaps, and I use too much of perhaps. When I speak is when I'm talking to you and I say absolutely, then you know I've zoned out. I've zoned out and I'm saying absolutely, absolutely.
I'm
And then
not sure how many times did you say that today.
I don't think I used it today.
Okay, I kept you awake there. What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
The best piece of advice I ever received. That's a toughie. I can't really think of the best piece. I think the best piece of advice I took from some self-help book somewhere
Mm-hmm.
was this. I don't think the self-help book is a story of Solomon. This too shall pass. The ring that was engraved, this too shall pass. So I think whenever something terrible happens, it's this too shall pass. This will happen. Go. Don't worry about it.
Touche, touche. If you were to meet 16 years old Kiran today, what would you tell her?
I would tell her to be more selfish.
What does success mean to you?
Success, financial success would be to be able to do what you want through the day and not be answerable to anybody. If you feel like taking off for a vacation any point in time, you can just take off and go where you wish. Life success would be to be surrounded by people who love you, who truly love you. I think that's all. And it's very difficult to find, even 3 or 4 people who genuinely love you, regardless of it.
Beautiful. If your life were a book, what would the title be?
Work in progress.
Your daily self-care routine.
I go to the gym. I'm pretty fanatical about it. So 1 hour at the gym every day, Monday to Saturday. About skincare, I'm very bad. I do nothing. I mean, I just wash and whatever. Hardly get anything else done. But I must take out time for myself to do a 10-minute watercolor or read some chapters of a book, whatever book I'm reading at the moment, and watch 1 episode of whatever I'm watching. So at the end of my day, these 3 are non-negotiable.
I love that.
Doing a watercolor, reading, and watching.
That's such different again, but watercolor I never thought you would be into. So that's very, very interesting because it actually engages so many other senses as well, right? So that's beautiful. What
My
would
works are there on Insta. It's
really?
Kiran Manral Art. So you can just check the
Oh,
Insta handle.
I'll check it out. I'll check it out. Would you rather be a global best-selling author or a cult classic legend?
A cult classic legend.
And last but not least, what would you want your last line of your autobiography to say?
She came, she saw, she thought it was not worth conquering.
Oh my God. Oh my God, that's so deep, but that's so profound, and that's so you. So, did not expect that coming. But Kiran, thank you so much on that note for being here, for reminding us that we are the authors of our own lives and never too late to rewrite your own script. And your story is so powerful and so inspiring and so versatile that to everyone listening, this is a great place to start. Even if you're not a writer, you can be a reader. If you're not a reader, you can be painter. If you're not that, you can be an entrepreneur. But so thank you for doing that. And to all the listeners who are watching today, remember this is not a podcast. It's a global sisterhood. It's a book club for your life. So your story is the most important one you'll ever write. So don't let anyone write your book and don't let anyone write your story. So be the heroine of your own life, whether you're 20s, 50s, doesn't matter how the plot is, but just take the charge. Don't be the side character, just like Kiran, you are a force too. So architect your own book and architect your own life. And say story, stay powerful. Until next time, thank you. Thanks, Kiran.
Thanks, Atan, for having me. This was a lovely conversation.
Thank you for listening to You Are a Force. Hit subscribe and join us next week for more powerful stories from women rewriting the rules. Until then, keep building, keep leading, and remember, you are a force.